Hello and welcome. I'm glad that you're here with us as we continue our chronological read through of the Bible. We're returning to the narrative of King David's reign today. It's springtime. Joab and the troops are out at war with the Ammonites, but David has remained in Jerusalem. The reading from First Chronicles focuses on the battles that are being fought and the spoil that's taken, including a crown with a precious stone in it that has a talent that weighs a talent. Well, a talent is about 75 pounds. So it's unlikely that David wore that crown any longer than needed for whatever ceremony it is that they were performing. I just thought I'd put that in there for perspective a little bit. The Ammonites in these wars are destroyed. They're reduced to labor for tearing down their cities, for making bricks, and so on. So that's basically what ends up happening in these wars. But for much of the time, King David isn't with the troops. He remains in Jerusalem and becomes infatuated with the wife of Uriah the Hittite, one of his great soldiers, and he gets her pregnant. He tries to cover things up by bringing Uriah home on a brief leave, but doesn't work out. So David sends Uriah back to the front, unknowingly carrying the special orders to Joab that Uriah, would be killed in battle. The orders are carried out, though in a less obvious way than had been originally suggested by David. David then marries Bathsheba, and hey, everything is good. Except, of course, it's not. Everything is actually a colossal mess. God sends Nathan the prophet to David, who relates to him a situation which David judges harshly, only to hear Nathan respond, "You, you are the man." David immediately recognizes his sin and confesses it before God. And what is even more, Nathan immediately announces God's forgiveness. Once again, you might think that everything is good, except, of course, it is not. The eternal consequences of David's sin have definitely been forgiven. But the temporal consequences, well, they're just beginning. The baby will die. The sword, violence and death, will always hover over David's house. And David's wives, will be violated by another in broad daylight. What David had done in private and secret will be done to David's wives in broad daylight. When Nathan leaves from delivering this message to David, the baby becomes ill, and on the seventh day, likely the seventh day of its young life, the child dies, just as Nathan had prophesied. David, prayed, who fasted and prayed continually to God and would not be comforted while the child was alive, broke his fast, worshiped God, and resumed his duties when the child died, much to the surprise of his officials. David comforts Bathsheba. Soon Solomon is born, and God makes it clear that he loves Solomon when Nathan gives Solomon another name, Jedediah, which means beloved of Yahweh. Now, there's an awful lot to talk about there. I just went through very quickly and related the account. We don't really have very much time, but I would like to share at least a couple of thoughts here. The effect of sin always goes far beyond those directly involved. Adam and Eve are a great example. But also think about how many people ended up participating in the various indirect aspects of David's sin, and how many people who were hurt, even died, as a result of David's sin. Not only the baby and Uriah, but those other soldiers that were with Uriah at the time. Another point. While it is true the repentant are immediately and completely forgiven the eternal consequences of their sins because we're saved by grace alone through faith alone, the temporal consequences of sin, in other words, its here and now effects, can still be great. Next point. Notice the big difference between David's reaction to his sin and Saul's reaction. Saul makes excuses and he tries to duck his responsibility. David confesses immediately and he repents. He also pleads for God's mercy on his son. We are prone to respond like Saul, but we need to respond like David. Notice also, one last point, the immediate response that Nathan, the immediate response of Nathan to forgive David as soon as he repents. This is God's proper work, this work of forgiveness. Notice also that the death of the baby, just as Nathan said, guarantees the other things that Nathan said as well regarding the ongoing the ongoing temporal effects of David's sin, and most importantly, the forgiveness that Nathan spoke. I guess one other point too. Notice that David fully expects to be reunited with his son in the new creation. This is our hope as well. We also have that tremendous hope, that joy that we will meet with those who have gone before us in the new creation when Jesus returns. May God be with you, bless you. As always, I pray that our time together and your reading is helping you to grow and to learn. I look forward to joining with you again the next time.